Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Nigeria's population hovers around the 201 million mark. In fact, according to UN estimates, the country's population is projected to reach about 800 million mark by the end of this century, going by the current rate of growth. Still, according to those estimates, half of the population of Nigeria survives on less than $1 a day, a far cry from the World Body's recommendations. And to make matters a lot more depressing, there is a huge infrastructure deficit militating against development efforts in the country. Existing facilities are overburdened, and competition for space and resources is becoming more intense. This morning, on this program, we have 3 guests from the National Population Commission who are here to speak on Nigeria's population growth and demographics, with a view to helping economic planners tackle more effectively the country's social amenities and infrastructure needs. We have with us in the studio right now Dr. Abdulmalik Mohammed Durunguwa, representing Kaduna State in the Population Commission, Engineer Ben Upong from Akwa Ibom State, and Harry Upong, who represents Rivers State. No, I got that name wrong, right? I saw the look on your face. Okay, right?
Dr. Palibo Hari.
Dr. Palibo Hari, who is representing Rivers State in the National Population Commission. Gentlemen, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, Dr. Durunguwa, let me start with you. Now, why has it been so difficult to have a census in Nigeria whose results are accepted as valid, reliable, and acceptable to all the various population groups in the country? Because population is such a big political issue in Nigeria.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Ruben and
Adesoa.
You see, as far as population or demographic issues are concerned in Nigeria, there are a lot of factors that makes it, of course, difficult, to organize. But first of all, if the time frame in the Constitution do not give that direct this thing to conduct the census. When you say it's periodical, it depends. But in most cases, when there is no proclamation by the president to conduct a census, it's not going to be easy for somebody to just say, I am going to census. But right now, as far as Nigeria is concerned, I think this government are doing whatever that is humanly possible to see how possibly census will be conducted. In fact, I know they are actually working on it. But as far as we are concerned, there are a lot of issues, like I have told you. There are a lot of pre-census issues that have to be tackled before the census itself, like area demarcations and delineation of areas, where aerial, pictures or imagery is going to be, and which we are doing right now in the National Population Commission. So we have a lot of other issues that we have to tackle before the real head count.
No, but do you need, a constitutional mandate or a presidential directive? What we know is that, censuses are conducted every 10 years. The first one in Nigeria was in 1911,
yes,
followed by 1921. Then there was another census in 1931. The only reason we did not have a census in 1941 was because of war. And then you had another one in 1953.
Specifically, the Act did not say 10 years. It just said census will be conducted periodically. But of course, it is allowed for census to be conducted after 10 years. But since the law did not say after 10 years, it becomes, a little bit different. But once it is said periodically, but that is what we are talking about. Maybe sooner or later, in fact, the Act will be amended so that it will be a 10-year kind of a period program that, okay, census was conducted in 2006. The next census should supposed to be in 2016. But right now, it is 2019. We are about 3 years behind the 10-year plan. But supposing the Act says 10 years, so from 2026, everybody have to hit the ground running. By 2016, another census is supposed to be conducted. But all things being equal, we are actually waiting, for the president's proclamation, so that as soon as we get that proclamation from the Master President, I am telling you, this country, but the National Population Commission will be ready and willing. We are already doing a lot of, planning, strategies and a lot of other things being accommodated to make sure that the census take place.
Okay, Mr. Engineer Upon, let me start with you, closer to me. Just last week or so, the UNFPA, the United Nations Population Fund, came out with this figure of 201 million Nigerians, one that the NPC quickly debunked. I think my question here is, how many really are we in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians. Really, the Nigeria Constitution, empowers the National Population Commission to handle issues of demographic surveys, census, population planning and management, and all issues that leads to primary generation of data in this country. So the National Population Commission is that constitutional body that is, mandated to handle what we are actually doing. So talking about the issue of the actual, population figures, after the 2006 census, every other thing is based on estimation and projections. And I know the immediate past chairman of the commission, Ezeduri Oma SAN, at the United Nations Conference, formally, that the position of Nigeria was that we were 198. That was at that forum. But between then and now, definitely there are a lot of projections. So what we are saying is that from the 198 that was pronounced by our chairman, and now, definitely, there are a lot of bets taking place. And you also know that one of the mandates of our commission is to carry out birth registration, as well as death, as well as marriages, divorces, and migrations. So it is these factors that will now determine the plus and minuses of the population. So what we are saying is that we need the exact figure to be obtained after the census. And that's why we want this country, to know what the numbers we actually are. Because without the exact population figures, we cannot plan well for our people.
So you're saying we're about 198 million, is that what you're saying?
No, what we
still don't know how many we are.
No, what I'm saying is estimation. We are going to know the exact number by the time we carry out population census, which will be done very soon.
Let me quickly ask, sorry, Dr. Bassey, let me jump in. Let me ask you, because it was Benjamin Franklin that said, if you do not plan, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Talking about population and productivity, and the NPC is a data generation commission. Isn't that an indictment on the NPC itself? Because if policymakers do not have those numbers, which you are empowered to generate and give, then that is an indictment on the commission.
Firstly, let me say that censuses in Nigeria did not start from 1921.
I said 1911.
1911.
Very sure about that.
It goes back to even
The colonial period,
1871.
1911.
1871.
And the British authorities.
1881, 1891. To 1901, it was a 10-yearly thing, during the colonial era. Then we moved into 1906, amalgamation of the Lagos colony with the Southern protectorates, and it moved on to 1921, and all of the rest of them. And the conflicts that were coming on in between.
1931, 1953,
exactly.
1963.
Until we had 1979 Constitution that gave birth to National Population Commission. And of course, the first major, most acceptable census came in 1989.
That was when the NPC was established.
Great, that's when it was established, 1979 and 89. It came on with the census and was very well applauded. The issues are why, because you asked us, why are they always contentious? As heterogeneous as we are, as vast as we are, 200 and something plus ethnic groupings and dialects. Even political parties were about 70 something. From every community, you have a councillor from every party contesting for a position, 70 something. There must be contentions. That should be taken for what it is. We're in Nigeria, everybody is aware. Unfortunately, we're reading the wrong meaning into census. And that's why it's even, the contentions are even more exacerbated. We see census as an opportunity to increase our figures, to be able to have a bite on the national cake. censuses ought to give us demographics, like you mentioned, details of our population, the spread of the balance, female-male ratio, how many of the population is youth, and what about the housing stock? Because it's population and housing census. What's our housing stock? What kind of houses do we have? What about electricity supply? Who has access to and who doesn't have? So you'll be able to use that to plan for infrastructural provisions and all the rest of them. Now, coming back to your question, which is that the fact that these data are not available, isn't it an indictment on the Population Commission? The best Population Commission can do is also to project. The last figures released by UNFPA, 201 million. Population Commission said we were looking at 198 million. Now, there was only a gap of about 3 million. Population Commission did not condemn the figures of UNFPA. It only said that, yes, but those are mere projections, like ours. And we really need to know, in real terms, what our figures are. That's what Population Commission said. Because we had thrown up our own projections earlier in the year, and to say that we are about that figure. And now UNFPA has come with a different figure of 3 million gap. A whole lot of things would have been responsible. It's a whole lot. And now that we are having some more people, I hope those who are coming in from Libya and Ghana and the rest of them would not have added to the figure to increase it from 201 to 202 million. It is not in any way an indictment. You work only what you have. Even in developed countries, projections are allowed. They're acceptable.
Engineer Ipalebo, since you know the history.
I'm not an engineer.
You are, okay.
He's an engineer. I am Dr. Ipalebo Harris.
Okay.
Yeah, associate engineer now.
Since you know the history, let me pin you down a little bit. There are some people who say that, the politics of population census is part of the problem Nigeria still has to deal with. Now, in the last election, there were complaints about the figures that came from Kano, that came from Borno State, and some people say the British caused the problem, right? That in 1952, population census in 1952, yes, gave advantage to the North, right? And that even before then, all the population censuses conducted by the British found more people in the North than in the South. In 1962, when the Tafawa Balewa government conducted census, there was an attempt to reverse that. There were suddenly more people in the West and in the South, generally. The Balewa government cancelled that census and then conducted 1963 census. Yes. In 1963, they had the British pattern, and that was acceptable to that government. And since then, it's been an issue, even in this last election. So what is the problem? Is it the British caused the problem, or there are no honest people in Nigeria, post-independence, who can conduct credible and reliable census?
All right, you're asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you.
Great. Our interest is not to know who caused the problem, but to be part of the solution to the problem.
So will there ever be a time when we'll have reliable census?
What I can tell you is that there are credible people, as it is presently constituted in the commission, to conduct credible election. I'm sorry, the census. And going forward from here, and that's part of what I think we should take home, the fact that we should get our points right ahead of every census. So there's need for what we call proper birth and death registration. I am sure that a lot of people do not know that registration of their babies is free. We must register our births.
And compulsory.
Compulsory, free. Let's know how many, there's so many children are born every day that are not captured. If we keep making that mistake, we are bound to make the same error. Now, how many persons actually are involved? Look, we're doing what we call EAD, enumeration area delineation, across board, every local government area in the country. I tell you, a lot of our people don't even know what it means. They're not even involved. They don't want to know. But you see, you have begun to fail if you don't get involved, even at this stage. Guide the people. There are certain areas that will be a little bit difficult for our demarcators to access. These are part of the things that lead to errors in figures.
If I can come in to add more to my colleague, Dr. Ipala Buhari, who happened to be the chairman of the Census Committee, and he has a lot actually to do as what you are asking. You see, getting population figures right, as far as I'm concerned, more especially in this modern society now, is more easier because there are a lot of modern equipment and electronic gadgets that have been introduced. And I am telling you, if the National Population Commission is going to the near, the immediate census that we are talking about, we are promising you Nigerians that, of course, is going to be well electronically controlled and, biometrically controlled in such a way that it will be difficult for you to count one person twice. You understand what I mean? Because when we do that, it will help Nigeria. I don't bloody care, I'm sorry to say, that look, so and so state, we always try to muzzle and put figures to favor issues that do not even matter to the country. As far as I'm concerned, when we have a reliable, acceptable, figure, it will help us plan. And Nigeria will go to sleep. Leaders will now use these figures to make sure that social amenities, every other thing that is needed, to be used, those figures will provide it. Like if you want to take children, or Nigeria is planning to take children to school, or how many children do we have, from the population, from the figure that you have, you know how many children are within this age, you know how many people have this age. If you are planning to do something for aged people, you know how many people are within this age limit. And of course, like you have said, the birth and death registration is a daily thing with the commission, which a lot of people don't know. We are starting with the responsibility that is done every second. Sometimes a woman gives birth right now as we are talking, or somebody is dead somewhere as we are talking right now. Those figures are not captured. And that is what we are seriously working at the National Population Commission for, of course, everybody to be on board, to be educated. If you are a social media person, if you are a religious person, if you are a cleric, give us this opportunity to know that so and so person died. Avail the information so that we key it in. If somebody is born, give us the information. By the time we get the real census now that we are talking about, that we want to conduct, then the next thing is just a plus and minus. If today a child is born in Lagos, all you need to do, Lagos have gotten an additional one person. Somebody died, you subtract. Based on that, it will be difficult to start these estimations. But that is what a lot of countries are doing right now, because they are fully gone biometric in such a way that you capture person once and that person is another. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. You see, really, like my colleagues have all said, there's something I want to remind Nigerians, that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which we are operating right now, has an inbuilt mechanism to make sure that we come out with a credible and acceptable head count in this country. How? The Constitution provided that in the Constitution, because the commission shall consist of a chairman. That means it can come from any part of Nigeria, and they have 36 federal commissioners.
37.
36 federal commissioners representing all the states of the Federation, and one federal commissioner representing the FCT, making it 37. And we also have a Director General appointed by Mr. President, to do the permanent secretary. So all these are inbuilt mechanisms in such a way that every state is represented. Like you have seen that we are all members of the Public Affairs Committee, and we are all structured in committees, just like in INEC and any other commission in this country. So with that, everybody is seeing and looking and knowing that everything is well. And like my colleagues have also said, going forward in this era of digital technology, we are going to use an ICT-based mode of conducting census. Right now, the EAD we are using what we call satellite imagery. That means wherever you are, any house in this country is already captured in that imagery. And as we are going about, when we use the word EAD, you may not really understand. What we are talking about is that if you see any space in this country, in any local government or any locality, we parcel, we partition those spaces into area that about 2 persons walking on foot can go around to enumerate everybody. So in this case, we have every house in well more than 200 local government areas we have already done, ready for the census. We have carried out a lot of pre-census activities in the commission. We are not just folding our arms. We are working, but we are just waiting. Once Mr. President blew the last whistle, then everything is set.
No, but what efforts are you making to make Mr. President blow the last whistle?
Before-
to use your phrase,
before that
because you
point-
have to engage the presidency.
Before that point, there's something I want to betray just to add his point in preparation to this census that we're talking about. Recently, we have you have different type of departments, just like you have said, or committees. Like we have the ICT committee, which is headed by another commissioner, of that committee. Like I am the one who is heading the public affairs committee. But what I'm trying to say, we or the commission have asked such committees to work, with other manufacturing, organizations of original manufacturer of all these ICT equipment. They are testing right now. Very soon they will go into testing of a lot of equipment that will be used so that we know which one will be applicable, as far as this particular exercise is concerned. Which one can stand the weather and the conditions in Nigeria. So that is to tell you that we are actually doing our best to make sure that at least all these figures that, we bamboozle or whatever is removed in the context. And we are assuring Nigerians that we should believe that we can be able to have a credible census. That is very key. That is very important. And this is where the media houses and organizations are expected to play a role to educate the people to understand that we have gone a particular stage now in this country that we should get things right. Good and fine. Then the other thing you are asking, as far as Nigeria is concerned, we are in a modern society or in a global society that if we don't get it right now, when are we going to get it right?
So what are the efforts to get Mr. President to blow the last whistle, as he said?
Part of what we are doing is the effort.
There's no direct contact. The Commission is not negotiating, discussing with the President?
No, but you see, we are an organ of government. Mm-hmm. So what we are doing between us and Mr. President, is not what should come on air. But I want to assure Nigerians...
No, Nigerians have the right to know.
I want to assure Nigerians that the Commission has done a lot. We have, recently several commissioners were appointed by Mr. President. 23 of them were appointed by Mr. President and sworn in by Mr. President. And we have been interfacing, we have been communicating. Mr. President is aware, he's abreast with all the preparation we are making, and we are hoping that as very soon, the Nigerians will be told the exact date the population control.
Well, I want to ask three of you this question because you are federal commissioners from 3 different states. Yeah. It is no longer news that the GDP to population is dismal and the economic situation is dire. But in your various states, what is responsible for the growth in population we are seeing? Because, as a family, if you do understand the economic realities of the country, why are we procreating more if we cannot take care of them? What is responsible in these 3 states you're from?
Let me comment.
From the information at your disposal.
Yeah.
Let me comment there. As officers of the National Population Commission, we can only give you clear answers when we have done full demographics. If you ask us as individuals, yes, we can take you on and probably give ideas as to why this is happening. And those reasons may vary from state to state.
And that's what I want to hear.
Well, if you want to hear about Rivers State, why we are increasing,
yes.
I do not know how many we are at this point in time.
No idea.
To be able to compare. And I tell you frankly, the census will give us a head start as to how many we are and why the difference between where we are and where we were. But if there's this high level of movement, what do you expect? This is an era where a lot of people who are not necessarily working find pleasure in procreation. Nothing else to do, so why don't we just keep...
in Katsina,
they differ from place to place.
In Kaduna, rather.
In Kaduna, see, there are social and cultural factors that, influence the population growth in a particular area. If already, for example, you see nothing wrong in marrying 10 wives in some cultural setup, in the original cultural setup in Kaduna, but, in Kaduna we have people from the southern part of Kaduna, people from the northern part of Kaduna. Everybody has his own cultural setup. And then, if you are allowed to keep on, producing children without you even knowing, the implication or knowing even what, this and that, it doesn't make sense. But what we are saying, right now, if we begin to get it right, we begin to think of how to get quality people, to be given, at least give birth to a quality person or improve their quality of life so that they can be able to now begin to reason and take decisions on how do we manage ourselves. Because that is where population management comes in. But that is not what is actually the issue now. Let us get it right. How many are we even before we begin to talk about managing the population? There are a lot of factors in population management. So many.
Now, what is it in your own state?
Thank you. It is just natural.
Natural, to just create, knowing that economic realities will not take care of those people.
It is natural in the sense that, even God has said we should go and multiply. But then, having said that, that's where National Population Commission comes in. Because with the last census that was done, anything we are doing is projections. And as we are going, every family, that's why I say it's natural. Because anyhow you look at it as a family. And that family, is a normal thing, because no matter how hungry you are still a family. But what we are doing in the national population is that we make sure that we even know how many we are. We even know the type of houses you are staying. We even know, do you have power? Do you have sanitation? Do you
clinics,
have social amenities like clinics, like schools? So that those, people that are so created or so, produced, in every state, they will now have, facilities to take care of themselves. Now, having said this, as you are talking about states, our state governments, are really partners with the population commission. I told you, we are in 774 local government areas of this country. And in all the state headquarters, we are there, and at the Federal Capital Territory. So in all activities, our project sites or our own fields are the local government, are the real communities. Okay. So we are working very hard to get these things done.
One follow-up question to this thing about population growth. Dr. Palibo, I'll direct this to you quickly so that we can go. There is a national population policy in place, right? And there are persons who have been saying we should not take population growth as given.
Yes.
Because you have to balance population growth with resources, with planning projections. Now, what is happening to the national population policy? It looks like nobody is even trying to get it, to work.
I tell you frankly, it is existing. It is there. It is in the books. National population policy is tied to population management. That's what Dr. Lungo is saying. Population management would come after.
I prefer population control.
That's it. That's what it is. But the point is that people make mistakes by seeing census proper. The conduct of enumeration area delineation is a pre-census activity.
Which is going on.
And
right now.
People are waiting for census. EADs are going on. Birth registrations or civil registration activities, these are pre-census activities because those figures will be put side by side, the figures that will come out after census, and be able to show why is there so much of a difference between what children were given birth to and the figures we are getting through the census. Be able to know exactly which one is where. So we need to let our public know that they should get involved. You should ask, that naming ceremony you're going to, is that child registered? Do you have a birth certificate for that child? Get these children captured appropriately. Otherwise, you're not helping the children. And from the point that the child is born and given a birth certificate, that is your first right of citizenship of Nigeria.
That is when we know that he exists.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Yeah. I think this has been very enlightening. And I'm sure that our viewers, will be expecting the National Population Commission very soon to announce when we will have the next census. And, they will need to be assured that for the first time, perhaps in a long while, we will have reliable census.
And credible,
Yes. Thank you very much. It's time now for a short break on The Money Show. When we return, we'll have Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni join us to review top stories in some of today's newspapers. Stay with us.